Most swimmers fall in love with the water at first touch. Ian Thorpe had to fight for that feeling. As a child, he was allergic to chlorine, so allergic that his first races were swum with his head above the water. And yet, that same kid would become the most dominant freestyler the world had ever seen. Between 1998 and 2004, Ian Thorpe didn't just win, he changed the way we think about freestyle. His near-perfect pulling mechanics, his rhythm, his line, even when sprinting down the home stretch. Watching him swim wasn't just impressive, it was hypnotic. He moved through the water like he was part of it. And in this video, we look back at what made Thorpe extraordinary. His achievements, his technique, his mindset, and what we can all learn from a career that blended precision, resilience, and quiet brilliance. And if you want to develop those same attributes in your own training, grounded in the same kind of principles that built swimmers like Thorpe, check out my free ebook, Training Principles for Master Swimmers. And you can download it for free from the link in the description. And if you love understanding how legends are built, from their technique to their mindset, subscribe, because that's what we do here every week. It was the early 2000s, and swimming still lived in that rare space between science and art. Stroke mechanics were evolving, but no one swam like Ian Thorpe. And the most staggering part, he was only turning 20 and already considered the greatest freestyler of all time. By 2001, when Thorpe was 19, he wasn't racing competitors. He was racing only against the expectations of a nation. At the World Championships in Fukuoka, the 200, 400 and 800 meters world records fell one by one. Not by the tightest margins, but by pure command. Records that once stood like mountains became pebbles under his feet. And when the camera zoomed in after each race, no arrogance, no chest thumping, just stillness, calm breathing, a face that says, I know exactly what I'm doing. That's the kind of stillness that comes from total control of your mind, your body, and especially the water. And back home in Australia, he was everywhere. Cereal boxes, Adidas billboards, global tours. The boy who once swam with his head above the water because of that chlorine allergy was now the pride of a nation. The standard, the benchmark. His coach, Doug Frost, once said Thorpe's greatest strength wasn't physical. It was his feel, his intuitive sense and connection to the water. Because he didn't just move through the water, he listened to it. Every wave of energy, every pressure shift, every ripple became his feedback. His swimming wasn't the grind, it was a language. He turned it into a science and then into poetry. And that's why those years, 2001 and 2002, still feel otherworldly. Thorpe wasn't just faster, he was showing us what fast could be. The pool stopped being a test of effort and became a canvas. And Thorpe, he painted that canvas with movement. So when we talk about Ian Thorpe, we're not just talking about a swimmer. We're looking at a rare moment in swimming evolution, when the water and the swimmer spoke the exact same language. Born on October 13, 1982, Ian James Thorpe grew up in Milpera, the working-class neighborhood where sport was stitched into daily life. His older sister Christina swam competitively, and Ian just wanted to join her. The problem was, the pool didn't really welcome him. His sinus reactions to chlorine were so severe that he had to learn to swim with his head above the water. But even then, something was different. At 7 years old, in his very first school carnival, he swam water polo style freestyle to avoid aggravating his nose and eyes, and still won. Over time, the allergy subsided and Ian could finally dip his face underwater without reacting. And the moment he did, his natural instincts kicked in. While other kids were being told to kick harder or pull faster, Ian was learning to swim smarter. His swimming wasn't built on brute force, it was built on internal feel. And under coach Doug Frost, who immediately saw something rare, Ian began smashing age group records. At 14, he won 10 age group national titles in a single meet, and at the same age was chosen to represent Australia on a senior level. He stood 6'4" already with his wingspan to match, and his feet size 17. But it wasn't only his physical gifts, it was his ability to hold the water longer, cleaner, with more awareness than anyone his age. He didn't just swim the length of the pool, he understood it. In 1997 Australian Championships 400 freestyle, he faced off against Grant Hackett, who would then become a long-time rival. And nobody expected Thorpe to contend, but he did more than hold his own. He finished third in 3:53.44, a new world age group record, and earned a spot on the national team. And just like that, Ian Thorpe, barely a teenager, was headed to his first international meet, the 1997 Pan-Pacific Championships in Fukuoka. Surrounded by veterans and Olympic champions, he didn't blink. He took silver in the 400 and in the 4x200 freestyle relay. So he wasn't just tagging along, he actually belonged. And then came 1998, the year Thorpe became the Torpedo. At the World Championships in Perth, the 400 freestyle final became instant folklore. He trailed Hackett by more than 2 seconds with 100 meters to go, and most swimmers fade there. But Thorpe surged. His 6-speed kick lit up. His body line stayed impossibly clean, and with each stroke, he reeled Hackett in. The crowd roared. The commentators shouted as the youngster closed the gap on Hackett and eventually passed him into a time of 3:46.29. Thorpe just became the youngest male world champion in history at 15 years old. But he wasn't done. In the 4x200 meter freestyle relay, he teamed with Michael Klim, Daniel Kowalski and Hackett for Australia's first gold in that event since 1956. Thorpe led off with the kind of composure that made you forget his age. 2 golds, a world title, a new name, the Torpedo. And at the Commonwealth Games later that year in Kuala Lumpur, he proved he was no one-hit wonder. Gold in the 200 meters, 400 meters, 4x100 and 4x200 meter freestyle events. And suddenly, Thorpe wasn't just a promising teenager, he was the face of Australian swimming. And at the end of 1998, he was named Swimming World's Male Swimmer of the Year, the youngest ever. And the scary part, he was still improving rapidly. Because when you watched Thorpe swim, it wasn't just the speed that caught your eye, it was the precision, the grace, the way his body moved with the water and not through it. It was like he wasn't swimming for the win, but instead playing in the water. And by 1999, that unique connection evolved into domination over the competition. And he was still a teenager, 16, lanky, with those size 17 feet and an incredible wingspan. But under Doug Frost's brutal high mileage training, reportedly up to 18,000 meters a day, session after session, Ian Thorpe wasn't just getting faster. He was being sharpened into something new, not just into a champion, but into a myth. Something swimming hadn't seen before and maybe never would again. The test came at 1999 Pan-Pacific Championships in Sydney, the dress rehearsal for the Olympic Games the following year. Every eye in the aquatic world was already watching him. Some curious, others a bit doubtful, many waiting to see if the boy would crack under the pressure. But instead, Thorpe delivered one of the most shocking middle distance performances in the history of the sport. He stepped up for the 400 meter freestyle. The world record still belonged to Kieran Perkins, an Australian icon. But Thorpe didn't care about legacy. He was chasing the record. And at the 250 meter mark, something wild happened. He accelerated. And usually that's the point in a 400 where even the best swimmers begin to fade, where they hold on, grit their teeth, and pray there's something left. But Thorpe did the opposite. His stroke didn't break. It built. The kick ramped, his rhythm tightened, he stopped racing the clock and started erasing it. And the final time, 3:41.83. He dropped nearly 2 seconds of Perkins' world record. And that race didn't just shake the swimming world, it scared it. And Thorpe wasn't finished. Days later, he took the 200-meter freestyle world record from Grant Hackett, 1:46 flat. These were the first world records ever set in the pool that would host the Olympics the very next year. 2 more gold medals followed in the relays, 4x200 with the new world record, of course, all at age 16. And Rowdy Gaines, the legendary American freestyler, would later call that 400 race the most amazing swim I've ever seen, hands down. But what made it so incredible wasn't just the time, it was how Thorpe did it. Because he didn't outsprint the field, he sustained sprint speed across 400 meters. And his secret, there wasn't any. Just the basic principles of freestyle done better than anyone in the world up to that point. Building rhythm through the whole body rotation. Patient formation of an anchor with the lead arm, which often was mistaken as a catch-up style stroke, and a smooth acceleration of the arm pull until a relaxed, clean swing of the arm into the recovery. All while holding a body line with zero wobbling or compensatory movements. And all powered with that legendary 6-speed kick that could be turned on full gear on command. Every stroke looked effortless. While other swimmers were splashing their way to the wall, Thorpe was slicing through the lane like it was silk. And that's the learning we can draw from his stroke. Hiding power inside effortlessness. Because efficiency isn't the absence of effort, it's the alignment of it. Thorpe didn't move less, he just moved smarter. Every ounce of force traveled forward and never sideways. And that's something every swimmer can train. Start with your rhythm, not your speed. Thorpe's rhythm wasn't mechanical, it was musical. And find the beat of your own stroke. Match your breathing, your rotation, and kick into one continuous flow instead of separate actions fighting each other. Then refine your anchor. Most swimmers rush the front of the stroke, chasing movement instead of connection, and Thorpe waited. He built pressure, gradually shaping the water instead of stepping through it. So practice patience in your catch. Let the water load your arm before you pull. And finally, protect your body line. The clean line was his secret weapon. No rolling shoulders, no collapsing hips, and no unnecessary sway. Try filming your stroke from the front. If your head or hips wander from side to side, that's energy lost. So smooth it out, because stability is speed. And effortlessness isn't easy, it's earned through discipline. Thousands of meters spent finding stillness inside the motion. And that's exactly what made Thorpe great. It was not power alone, but the quiet mastery of making effort invisible. And by the end of 1999, it was clear Thorpe wasn't a rising star anymore. He was already rewriting the rules of what fast looked like. He was Australia's hope, the face of a coming Olympic Games. And the rest of the world, they weren't just watching, they were bracing for the impact. And then came Sydney, the home Olympics, the new millennium, and 17-year-old Ian Thorpe was the center of it all. He wasn't just the face of Australian swimming, he was the face of Australia. Billboards, press tours, magazine covers. He carried not only a nation's hopes, but its identity. Adidas wrapped him in a full-body suit, and the media wrapped him in prophecy. And on opening night, the roof nearly blew off. 17,000 fans chanting his name. And first up, the 400 freestyle. He didn't just win, he erased the field. 3:40.59, another world record, and first gold for Australia. First rower of the Games. But he wasn't done. Less than an hour later, the 4x100 freestyle relay, a showdown against the brash Americans. Gary Hall Jr. had promised to smash the Aussies like guitars. And then Thorpe dove in for the anchor leg. He chased down Hall Jr. in the final meters, and when he touched the wall, the entire country erupted. The air guitar celebration, that wasn't really cocky, that was cultural. That was Australia reclaiming its domination in the pool. And the rest of the game cemented the legend. 5 medals, 3 golds, 2 silvers. The most decorated athlete of the Games. He carried the flag at the closing ceremony. And somehow he stayed grounded, soft-spoken, thoughtful, and gracious. But even Thorpe had his moments of defeat. The 200 freestyle final, Peter van den Hoogenband, the Dutch bullet, outtouched him 145.35 to Thorpe's 145.83. And it was Thorpe's race on paper, his crowd and his rhythm. But Hoogie had other plans. And that one loss, that single moment, would linger like a spark behind Thorpe's calm demeanor. He never complained, he didn't blame fatigue or media or pressure. He smiled, he congratulated Hoogenband, but inside he filed it away. And 1 year later in Fukuoka, he would answer. Not with interviews, not with revenge, but with speed. Because what came next wasn't just a victory lap, it was empire building. By 2001, he wasn't racing swimmers anymore. He was racing barriers, physics, and time. And in Fukuoka, Japan, everything came together. At 18 years old, Thorpe delivered a performance that to this day still feels unreal. 6 gold medals, 3 individual world records, 3 dominant relays. He wasn't just winning, he was bending the sport around him. And let's talk about the numbers because they matter. 200 freestyle, 144.06, the first human to break 145. In an era before polyurethane changed the sport, he did it with pure mechanics and timing. 400 freestyle, another world record with 340.17. And 800 freestyle, which was a brand new addition to the World Championships, and Thorpe set another benchmark world record with 739.16. And that swim alone could have headlined an entire career. But for Thorpe, it was just another check mark. But this wasn't just physical dominance, it was mental mastery. Thorpe had found a level of calm that most swimmers never reach, a kind of deep internal rhythm, that stillness behind the blocks, that soft exhale before the dive. It wasn't nerves of steel, it was control, it was awareness, presence. While others swam to survive the moment, Thorpe swam like he had already seen it. In Fukuoka, he wasn't just racing, he was performing, and every world record swim felt like it was written in the stars. And that's the deeper lesson from Thorpe's dominance. The psychology beneath the perfection. Didn't just train the body to move faster, he trained the mind to get quieter. Because real performance isn't about finding energy, it's about removing interference. When he stood behind the blocks, even with the weight of a country on his shoulders, his focus narrowed to the water in front of him. He wasn't chasing outcomes, he was chasing execution. Because that's what true presence looks like. Most swimmers tense up when the moment grows loud. Thorpe went the other way, inward, and that's something you can train. Start by rehearsing focus and not just pace. Before a main set, visualize your stroke instead of your split, and between repeats, learn to reset. One deep breath, one quiet exhale, one point of attention. The more you practice stillness, the faster it follows you in the pressure. Because Thorpe's genius wasn't his size or his stroke or even his medals. It was his mind, disciplined, observant, and detached from the noise. He proved that confidence isn't loud. It's the silence you can hold when the whole world is watching. 2002 brought the Commonwealth Games in Manchester and the Pan Pacs in Yokohama. Another avalanche of gold for Thorpe, another year of dominance. But by now, the story had changed. Thorpe wasn't just proving he was the best, he was showing how far ahead he already was. In Manchester, he collected 6 gold medals again, expanding his range to 100-meter backstroke and winning silver there just because he could. And then in Yokohama, he backed it up with 5 more golds, 100 freestyle, 200 free, 400 free, and 2 relay golds and a silver medal from the medley relay. And at this point, it wasn't about breaking barriers anymore. It was about normalizing the impossible. Race after race, meet after meet, Thorpe made world-class fields look like warm-up lanes. But it was that year's 400 freestyle, 340.08, that cemented his legacy. Even during the supersuit era, where swimmers wore high-tech buoyant suits designed to cheat resistance, Very few could even get close. But one man did with the slightest of margins, with 100 of a second. 7 years. That's how long Ian Thorpe's 400 freestyle world record stood. Untouched, unmatched, unapproachable. And in 2009 in Rome, Paul Biederman touched the wall in 3:40.07. Thorpe's record had fallen by 100 of a second, but context changes everything. Biederman wore the polyurethane Arena X Glide, a suit so buoyant and rigid it bent physics. The pool in Rome was fast, the water was thick with plastic, and world records were crumbling like dominoes. And Thorpe's 3:40.08, swum in 2002, came from pure human control. No artificial lift, no compression armor. Just rhythm, balance, and lungs that refuse to break. So technically, we can say Biederman beat the record. But to most who understand the sport, Thorpe's mark was never truly broken. His 3:40.08 remains the fastest real swim ever done by a human body unaided. And let that sink in for a moment. He did it at just 19 years old, in fabric and water alone. And only one man in polyurethane armor ever managed to beat it. And here's the part that stings us Ian Thorpe fans. Since Biederman in 2009, not in plastic and not in textile, no one has ever touched Thorpe's time. It's been 23 years, nearly a quarter of a century. In that time, the sport has evolved. There's new starting blocks. There's the dolphin kick revolution, advanced training, data analytics, and science. So everything has changed, except one number, 3:40.08. Without the plastic suits, without that single moment in Rome, Ian Thorpe would still be the world record holder. And at least for me, in every way that matters, he still is. But domination has a cost. After 2002, Thorpe was the undisputed king of freestyle. The world saw effortless control. But inside, he was already questioning where to go next. By the end of 2002, Thorpe had been under the public microscope for 5 straight years. And behind every gold was thousands of kilometers swam, tens of thousands of turns, and the crushing silence of expectation. He was still young, but he was also the most scrutinized athlete in Australia. And quietly, he was getting tired. So at the peak of his power, he made a decision few expected. He left his longtime coach, Doug Frost, the man who had built him and guided him since childhood. In his place, Thorpe chose Tracy Menzies, a softer voice, a new environment, because he wasn't chasing more medals. He was chasing something rarer in the sport: sustainability, balance, and joy. And that's the part that gets overlooked, because champions aren't just made by obsession. They're made by knowing when to change, when to pivot, when to choose staying in love with the sport over burning out inside it. And Thorpe chose peace over pressure. But even as he made that turn, 2004 was coming. Athens was waiting, and the world would once again ask for something impossible. But before Athens came Barcelona. The 2003 World Championships marked Ian Thorpe's first major international test under his new coach Tracy Menzies. And for anyone wondering if the change would slow him down, the answer came quickly: not even close. He walked onto the pool deck not just as the champion, but as the measuring stick, the one everyone else had grown up chasing. And then he showed why. Gold in 400 freestyle, 200 free, and the 4x200 freestyle relay. But Barcelona wasn't a clean sweep. In the 100 freestyle, Thorpe took bronze, finishing behind 2 of the greatest sprinters in history, Alexander "the Tsar" Popov and Peter van den Hoogenband again. And in the 200 individual medley, a brand new event for him on the world stage, he lined up next to a 17-year-old named Michael Phelps, already beginning to reshape the sport. Thorpe took silver, over 3 seconds behind Phelps' world record. But these weren't really setbacks, they were experiments. New races, new challenges. Not because he had to, but because he was still curious. So even in dominance, Thorpe was still reaching beyond his comfort zone, exploring speed over the 100 meters and testing his range in the medley. Because it wasn't about the medals, it was about mastery. And that's what made him different. And that's why by 2004, Australia didn't just hope for gold. They expected it. Thorpe wasn't just a swimmer anymore. He was a symbol. 4 years after Sydney, the nation returned to the Olympic stage wanting more. More medals, more dominance, and more magic. But Thorpe wasn't chasing fireworks. He wasn't there to recreate a moment. He came to Athens with a slightly different mindset. Not to perform for the crowd, but to execute cleanly, precisely, and under his control. And yet, even before the game started, chaos ensued. A false start in the national trials, disqualification, appeals, some debate, and in the end, Greg Stevens, gracious and selfless, gave up his 400-meter spot so Thorpe could swim. And that decision told you everything about the culture around him. Teammates putting the absolute performance above personal ambitions. And for Thorpe, it changed everything. Because when someone sacrifices for you, you don't swim for yourself anymore. You swim to honor the system that made it possible. And there's nothing romantic about that kind of pressure. You control what you can. Your breathing, your posture, your physiology. You reduce the chaos to a rhythm you can manage. And most athletes get swallowed by that moment. But of course, Thorpe didn't. His 400-meter final wasn't Sydney-style domination. It was quieter, more calculated. He built the race from the inside out, cruising through the middle 200, staying within his lactate limits and ignoring the urge to go early. He avoided the classic Olympic trap, emotional pacing, blowing up on the front half because the lights are too bright and the stadium too loud. He touched first, not with ecstasy, but with relief, because sometimes winning what you're expected to win is harder than chasing something new. The gold didn't feel like a triumph. It felt like obligation was fulfilled. And then came the race the world had been waiting for, the 200-meter freestyle final, dubbed in the media the race of the century. 4 men, 4 legacies. Peter van den Hoogenband, the Dutch sprint king, still holding the Olympic title from Sydney. Michael Phelps, just 19 at the time, already chasing 7 golds and rewriting the sport. Grant Hackett, Thorpe's teammate, an aerobic machine, a legend in his own right. And Thorpe, the mid-distance anomaly with a sprint engine, diesel lungs, and a body built for the water. And Thorpe didn't resist the early pace. He respected it. Van den Hoogenband blasted off the blocks, 24.44 through the first 50, almost half a second faster than Thorpe. At 100 meters, Hoogie led with 50.42, Thorpe was second, Phelps third. And Thorpe's first 100 was deliberate, not slow and not panicked, just controlled. And that was the secret. He didn't try to beat them early. He waited for the second 100 to reveal the truth. The stroke stayed long, the legs were still quiet, still saving. He didn't react, he negotiated. At 115 meters, the margin had shrunk. Hoogie split the third 50 in 27.30, while Thorpe was 26.88. And at that point, it was clear. Thorpe was lengthening, while Hoogenband was suffering to keep up the pace. And the final 50 meters, that wasn't adrenaline, that was training. That was years of swimming in the oxygen depth, of rehearsing neuromuscular control under collapse. What he did in those final strokes wasn't poetry. It was decision-making under acidosis. It was discipline in the exact moment when the body begs for mercy. He closed in 26.79 for the last 50, while Hoogenband faded to 27.51, almost outtouched by the young Phelps, who stormed home in 26.64, whispering a warning the swimming world would soon understand fully. Thorpe touched in 144.71, a new Olympic record. From Thorpe, it was the perfect race. Strategy beating speed, grace conquering force. In Sydney, Thorpe became a phenomenon. In Athens, he became a legend. Because he didn't just win. He outlasted, outthought, out-executed. He proved that technical excellence, emotional control, and tactical discipline, and not just talent, are what define a champion. And that's another thing we can learn from Thorpe, that racing isn't about reaction, it's about execution. He never changed the swimmers beside him, he changed his plan, because every great swim starts with a decision. Will you let the field set your rhythm, or will you set your own? And Thorpe always did the latter. He didn't get pulled into the noise, into the panic, into someone else's pace. He trusted the work, trusted the plan, trusted that his rhythm, if executed perfectly, would win, or at the very least, get the best out of him. Because that's what racing is really about. It's not about the medals, it's about mastery. You can't control who touches first, but you can control how perfectly you execute your own race. And that's the mindset every swimmer can practice. Design your race plan and then honor it. Train for pacing awareness, for trust in your strategy, for emotional control. Because when the pressure hits, instincts can take over, and your instincts will only be as good as your preparation. But Athens wasn't all triumph. In the 100 freestyle, Thorpe clawed his way to a bronze, his first Olympic medal in a pure sprint, finishing behind Van den Hoogenband and South Africa's Roland Schumann. And it wasn't his race, but it was still his moment, because it offered proof that he had the range, the courage to step outside his comfort zone and chase new ground. In the 4x200 freestyle relay, Australia took silver behind loaded American squad. Thorpe anchored, gave it everything, but the gap was too wide. No comeback this time, just a proud, exhausted finish and a respectful nod to a worthy rival. In the 4x100 free and the 4x100 medley relay, Australia finished out of the medal contention, both times watching the podium from the deck level. For a team used to rewriting history, it was a quiet, painful reminder. Dominance fades quickly in sport. You have to fight to keep what you once made look so easy. Still, by the end of those games, Thorpe had 4 Olympic medals, 2 golds, 1 silver and 1 bronze. And with 9 Olympic medals in total, he walked away as the most decorated Australian Olympian of all time. He had done what few ever do. Return to the biggest stage with the weight on his shoulders, a nation in his lane lines, and still deliver when it matters the most. Coach Don Talbot's influence still lingered in Australia's swimming system through the early 2000s. High standards, low sentiment, and no apologies for the workhorse culture. Ian Thorpe, despite his youth, had been in the system longer than most. He had been exceptional for so long that excellence began to feel expected. By 2005, he was training under Tracy Menzies, a shift away from Doug Frost's high-volume grind. Menzies brought a more technical, efficiency-based mindset, but a coaching change doesn't rewire emotional circuitry. Years at the top create a unique fatigue that no amount of aerobic capacity can fix. So while others were still chasing yardage, Thorpe started chasing nuance, breath timing, kick stability under acidosis, posture reset techniques. It wasn't complacency, it was survival. He wasn't declining, he was adapting. But in public sports, recalibration is often mistaken for regression. And so the questions begin. Not how fast can he go, but does he still want it? When asked often enough, those questions become a kind of erosion. The identity of a swimmer is built on a rhythm. Lane order, set cycles, tapers, trial meets. And when that purpose shifts from desire to duty, that rhythm cracks. He briefly considered moving overseas to train anonymously. Not to retreat, but a way to escape identity fatigue. The pressure of being Torpedo in every session, every swim. And in 2006, at just 24, Ian Thorpe retired. Not because he couldn't race, but because racing no longer gave him a reason. And he said, I've fallen out of love with the competitive side of the sport, and I'm not prepared to make the sacrifices required. And that is not quitting. That's a rare kind of honesty. But while the retirement headline said loss of motivation, but no headline captures the nuance of exiting elite sport. Thorpe entered what sports psychologists now call the post-elite identity window. No training camps, no taper meets, and no stopwatch. Just silence at 5:30 a.m. Athletes either explore new identities or slide back into familiar habits. And Thorpe kinda did both. He traveled, lived in the US, explored fashion, and toyed with television. He also dove into philanthropy, not as a brand strategy, but as a real extension of his discipline. But without the sports structure, clarity faded. Internal battles begin. Thorpe would later speak openly about depression. Anyone who's coached elites until retirement knows that space. The body might be fine, but the mind misses purpose. Still, he remained connected with the sport. He watched the meets. He saw the polyurethane suits era emerge with technique often lost to technology. And by 2010, whispers of a comeback started. Thorpe had returned to the water, quietly, alone. And in 2011, Thorpe was officially back, not for nostalgia, but for truth. He trained in Switzerland under Gennady Turetsky, the genius behind Alexander Popov. And Turetsky didn't offer comfort, offered precision, and that's what Thorpe wanted. Performance and not a ceremony. But the task was brutal. Regain world-class aerobic conditioning after years away in a sport that had already evolved. There was more speed, more turnover, and new champions. And he wasn't racing his past, he was racing a new era. Thorpe focused on the 100 and 200 free, events that demanded more raw speed than his 400 legacy. But unfortunately, the comeback fought him back. The mind remembered the pace, but the body lagged. And that gap breeds frustration. Most athletes never return because of that divide. But Ian persisted. He competed. He didn't qualify for London 2012, and the headlines screamed failure. But coaches saw something else. A master confronting the truth of time. And Thorpe later said, "I needed to know. It was never about proving anything to anyone else." And that is the voice of a true competitor. And when the comeback was done, he didn't fall into bitterness. He found peace. Because when the stadium lights dim, some athletes fade, but others evolve. And Thorpe chose purpose. He championed indigenous rights, mental health, and LGBTQ youth. He didn't just speak, he worked. He learned, advocated, donated, showed up, not for clout, but for the cause. He laughed more, appeared on shows, did commercials that finally showed his joy. Pressure had once shaped him. Now he shaped his own pace. He understood what few champions do, that victory is not the peak of purpose, that you can build meaning after medals. And in the end, Ian Thorpe didn't retire. He graduated. Ian Thorpe was more than a swimmer. He was a blueprint of technical mastery, emotional control, and what's possible when rhythm meets resilience. His stroke was art, and his story is deeply human. 5 Olympic golds, 22 or 23 world records, 400-meter time from 2002 that still hasn't been beaten in a textile suit. But numbers aren't his legacy. Thorpe listened to the water. He turned efficiency into a weapon. He showed that calm beats chaos and precision can outlast power. And if you're a swimmer, go back and watch his 200 and 400 freestyles from the early 2000s. Study the way he builds, the way he finishes, and then ask yourself, what would it take from you to move like that? Not just through the water, but through the pressure, through expectations, and through life. So a little bit different video today. I hope you like it. If you did, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out my one-on-one coaching and community. Link is in the description, and see you in the next video.